in order to make a pivot table, you also need two other things. You need some type of classification category, how you want to sort things and classify them. In this case, I'm going to use type. This is my own typology of spindle whorl types. And you need a column for count. How many of the object in this row? That's how it calculates what it is that you're counting. The number of spindle whorls of type 1A in trench A1. So we're going to use pivot tables to automatically generate this kind of table. So under data, go to pivot table. It'll usually detect, use a table arrange in this workbook, it usually detects, if you have one cell selected, it'll detect the whole sheet, which is correct, up to 72. We want to put it into a new worksheet, that's fine, so we just click OK. This is the pivot table builder, and it allows us to determine what we're going to classify by on the row and the column. In terms of rows, I want to use trench. That was my grouping of different trench areas. I want to classify by type, so I'm going to put that in column. And oops, I dragged that into the wrong box. And for count, we want to just use count. Count, that means if you happen to have two of the same thing in a row, usually my data is entered one item per row, so the count is always one, but if that happened to not be the case, obviously this would account for that. Pivot table just generated all of the different types of spindle whorls in all of the different trenches. In trench A1, those are the types that we have. Now we can do a few things. For instance, things that don't have a type. If we want to just remove the blanks, we can uncheck blank. What I did was click up here in this box defining the column labels, and it didn't delete the data, it just removed it from the view. The same thing here, if I didn't want to look at things on the surface, I could take that out. Maybe I don't care about surface finds. This shows you the sum count in across the row, and these ones are the counts, the sums over the columns. The same thing can be shown in percent format if you prefer to represent these counts as percents. You can click anywhere in the pivot table and go to settings. Inside settings, go to options, show data as, and in this case percent of row. For instance, I want to know what percent of the different spindle whorls are found in the trenches. Each trench has which frequencies of spindle whorls. So that just converted all of the data to percents. 20% is type 1A, 30% is type 2C, etc. Now if I want to also show count, I converted the first instance of count to percent, but if I wanted to, I could add it again, and it would add back the counts immediately next to the percents, so you can see them both. The beauty of this, I can remove it, I can go back to my counts. It's a simpler, easier view. You can also add secondary sorting criteria. In this case, I want to know in what levels of which trenches these spindle whorls occurred. So I use my depth. Depth would be weird. I'll show you what it looks like. It's 20, it's 30, it's inconsistent. It's not very useful. That's why we made the data more consistent. So I drag depth back out and drag level down there. Now, if I want to look at what are the things in the different 10 centimeter levels of trench A1, it subdivides. If I want to hit those triangles and close up the subdivisions by level, it will give me the summary by trench total, or I can look over the different levels. Now, because these are numeric and they're ranges, they're treating it in a weird sort of alphabetic format. If I want to, I can resort these just by dragging that down. Now numerically it makes sense, where 80 to 90 comes before 100 to 110. So that's easy drag and drop, and I just generated a table of all of my different types of spindle whorls in the different areas of the site. I hope that this kind of tutorial is helpful, and I hope that you have good luck in your data analysis.